Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today I'm answering a direct question, which is, why do I not talk about affirming churches on this channel? Most of you know I put out a poll recently and asked if anybody wants to answer this question. And while the answers were not super divided, the comments were. There's a lot of really easy answers for this, and honestly, there's a lot of answers that expose more about my journey than I'm necessarily willing to go into at this point. And the therapist in me wants to just turn this question around and ask, why do you want me to? And don't worry, I will later in the video. But the first answer is, what will be the point? If there are churches out there that are open and affirming of people living all types of lives, why do I need to explain that? Because if they're actually out there, they should be the ones talking about it, right? Why is that my job? I'm actually wondering, why would it be the job of someone who spent 20 plus years of their life before this explaining why people should continue to go to a church that was not openly affirming? Why is it my job to go out and seek the names and locations of these churches and then use my platform to spread that information? Shouldn't they be doing that themselves if they're so very open and affirming? Wouldn't we all know what their names are? Wouldn't we all know who they are? Because we all know the ones that aren't. The churches that aren't affirming, the churches that are very, very clearly anti-LGBTQIA plus community, are very loud about it. If your faith community is not just as loud as the rest of them are, how open and affirming are you? From a therapeutic standpoint, I made a very early decision with this channel not to include the side of Christianity where it is the queer Christians. I know there are queer Christians out there, and I absolutely support them living their best lives. There are other platforms for that, and more power to those other platforms. But can you imagine what it would look like for me to put out a video speaking about religious trauma and speaking about the ways that religion and churches have abused their power in the lives of innocent people, and then at the very end say, well, I know these churches have hurt you, but try these other places. They won't be as bad. Oh, wait, you probably can imagine that because lots of therapists do that and lots of churches do that. Here's why that's not okay. That minimizes the pain people are going through in their recovery. When someone leaves toxicity, when they leave an environment that has taken advantage of them and abused their trust in so many different ways and so many different levels, to encourage them to go back into an environment, even remotely connected to it, and try to heal back in one of those environments would be inappropriate of me as a clinician. Now, are there people who do that? Sure. What do I think of that? It doesn't matter, because everyone is on their own journey. I will not use my platform to promote that idea because on a very base level, it is inappropriate for me to suggest any type of healing journey for anyone. For me to suggest to someone that they take a certain path or a certain direction as they are healing their own scars would be a violation of my ethics. And I'm not willing to do that. Let's get to the other part of this that I find so very interesting. And that is the comments from who I assume are Christians. This channel, from the beginning, has been a place of refuge for people and a place where discourse can happen, but will always default to being safe for the people who have left those types of situations. Recently, I had a comment from someone who asked a genuinely curious question, but the question was supposing that I had gone to one church in my entire life and been told a lot of really egregious things God never actually said. And it was interesting to me that that was the assumption, because I did go to Bible college and I spent over 20 years working in churches, multiple churches throughout my life, and was raised in the church. So the things that I'm telling you that churches say and the place that I come from when I do my religious videos is not just one church, what I think maybe churches say. me. It's from lived experience. It's from working with people coming out of churches. It's from leadership in churches. I'm backing this stuff up with actual fact. And just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it's not happening. And just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it's not happening in your church, okay? If you are truly in a religious organization that is not doing these things, congratulations. That's wonderful. But that's not enough. Unless your religious organization is actively fighting against, loudly, out there, visibly, these other organizations and structures that are actively abusing people and harming children and adults in this way, it's not enough. This is where I get so frustrated by these comments about,
I wish you would talk about affirming churches.
My church affirms everybody.
Does it though? Does it? Just because your church building allows queer people to be in leadership does not mean your church affirms everyone. Just because your church sits there and says, no, I'm different, we have women and queer people in leadership, does not mean that your church does not benefit from the structure that benefits these other churches. The United States itself and many other countries are built on this idea that the foundation is religion. And when we are foundational in religion, the tenets of that religion become sacred. When those tenets of those religions are harmful to people and you attend a structure that benefits from those tenets being central, you are part of the problem. One of the viewers said it in the comments so well, and I've said something very similar recently in a podcast that I have with a couple of my friends. Saying not all churches doesn't mean anything. That's like saying not all men. That does nothing to heal or help the harm that is being done, right? The request to include the fact there are affirming churches out there is simply a request to make people who are attending affirming churches feel better about the fact they are still attending churches. That's not my job. If you feel good about it, then you feel good about it. I do not have to put that caveat out there for you to still feel good about it. If you are not feeling good about it, that's a question you have to ask yourself as to why. Why is it important for you that I put that out there? What does it mean to you? Is it because you want people to know they can still go to church? Why? Why is that important to you in a video about religious trauma that people know they can still go to church? Why? Why is your focus not their healing? And why is your focus not the fact that these other churches have done these terrible things to people? Why is it so important that I put that piece in there? I mean, that's something for you to really look at, I think. Maybe it comes from a wonderful, lovely, pure place. And then if it does, I'm going to tell you that timing is something you should think about. There are times to say certain things and times that certain things don't need to be said. And when someone's dealing with and engaging with their trauma, that is not the time to remind them they could still go to a church. But I do see it time and time again on the channel when someone is leaving comments about the things that they've gone through in their lives because of religion, and people are like, oh, well, just remember that was man and not God. Oh my goodness. What makes someone decide to write that on someone who is sharing their story? When someone is unburdening their story, that is not the time to tell someone how to correctly frame their story. It's just not. That's the time to hold space for them. That is the time to tell them that what they went through was not okay. And that is the time to let them know that they are not at fault for what was done to them. And that is the time to allow them to recognize the injustice of what has happened in their lives and let them start their journey to wherever it's taking them. I do not see it as my job to use this platform or any other platform that I hold for that matter to forward the cause of churches that call themselves affirming or accepting. Every church out there benefits from the structure of power that churches have. If you don't understand that, you are not aware of what's really happening. And I can't help that, and I'm sorry that I can't help that. I would love to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with anybody who doesn't understand that statement, but I can't. And honestly, I'm not willing to put that kind of time into it because I know there's a lot of people out there who don't understand that statement. I'm also not willing to risk the safe space here for people who cannot understand that this is not the place for them to evangelize. There are so many places out there for you to do that. If that's what you feel like you need to do, that's great for you. Do what you need to do. I am all for everyone living their own journey. This is not the place for you to push that idea on people who are healing. So that's why I don't.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next time. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.